Sesame. It's time for the Sports Vault with Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob.
Yeah, Joe, I think the Knicks are going to win the championship this year. They're going to beat the Heat.
Let me stop you right there, Rob. The Miami Heat will win the championship this year.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat. The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
The Madden cover winner in 2012 was Peyton Hillis.
Peyton who?
Running room with the ends. Peyton Hillis is loose. Sprint to the end zone. Touchdown.
Hello, Iona College. I am your host with the most, Jersey Joe, coming with my partner, as always, Big Shot Rob. And like we keep on reiterating, this is just such a great time of the year for sports. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, so much good stuff to talk about. So let's get right into it, not wasting any time. The first game I want to preview for you guys is the Raptors and the Nets. That series is tied up 3-2. The next game will be tonight at 7 o'clock. And the big points I've seen so far is Kyle Lowry. He's just been fantastic. 36 points and 6 assists Wednesday. The Raptors are getting to the free throw line, and they're making them. And I think that's a big thing, that these games have been coming down to the wire for the most part. And the Raptors, everybody on their team, they shoot their free throws very well, and it's really making a difference. But I said it last week, the Nets need Paul Pierce. They're only going to go as far as he can take them, and he really still continues to struggle. Only 10 points and 1 rebound, 2 assists, only 1 of 3 from the three-point line. He has really struggled so far, and that's going to be a big detriment. They need Paul Pierce to step up. Also, Deron Williams. The thing I've seen with Deron Williams is I think he has to be more aggressive offensively. Only 13 points, 9 assists, and 4 steals, and 0 for 1 from the three-point line. So Deron Williams has really got to be more aggressive offensively, because right now I think the Raptors have got the momentum, and I could see them getting the next win. And then again, this is where I want you to come in, Big Shot Rob. The Brooklyn Twitter account, they ripped Nets fans. They wrote, "Nets fans, take note. This is what a playoff crowd sounds like. Set your DVD and take notes." Now, that was, of course, in reference to the Raptors fan base. They've come out, and they've really, really done a good job of supporting this team. You look out into outside the arena, there's thousands of fans out there, and you really got to give this Raptors crowd a lot of credit because they've really supported this team. But what do you think? Is this a fair a rip of the Nets fans?
I think it is, because you know what? KG has stated it the whole series, Joe. Brooklyn really is dead. The fan base really is dead. It's not. There's other stadiums. You go to Madison Square Garden, Joe, like me and you when we went to that Ranger game the other day. Up and down all the time, jumping up in the stands, getting the excitement. You need that. And the Nets fan base needs to step up and do this. This series, the Nets, they really need their fan base to come alive in this Game 6. Because you know what? They need their fans behind them. This series is tough. The Nets knew that they had to shut down DeRozan and Lowry to win this series. They did a great job in Game 1 with DeRozan holding him to like 10 points. Otherwise, it failed. But all this money, Joe, they invested right over this offseason, and you have higher expectations for this team.
Absolutely.
Kevin Garnett, Joe, how much is he being paid, and he's not doing work?
But we said it before the season. I mean, we said before all the hype and expectations, you're building this team on a lot of veteran, older players. When it comes to the playoffs, can you rely on these guys to get it done? And I think you've seen the fatigue of the season, especially that first stretch when they really struggled. They played a lot more minutes than they would have wanted to. And I think that's really catching up to guys like Pierce and Garnett right now. And right now, maybe the Nets will get a win here tonight, but I think the Raptors are going to win this series. I think it's hard to see the Nets winning 2 in a row right now, so I got the Raptors finishing it off.
I think the Nets could win the next 2 games.
Wow, you're on the Nets?
I'm on the Nets.
All right.
I'm a New Yorker. You guys stick with the New York team. It's going to be a tough 2 games. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a real tough challenge, but they really have to play their hearts out and win it.
All right, the next series we have then is the highlight is the Spurs and the Mavs. That series is now 3-2. The next game is tonight at 8 o'clock as I look at my friend Armand in the control room, biggest Mavs fan I know. And so I'm going to give credit to Dirk Nowitzki, 26 points, 15 rebounds. And Vince Carter, man, off the bench, 28 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 10 of 16 from the free field goals. And he was 7 of 9 from the 3 points made. This guy's just been playing unbelievable. I mean, I was watching Greg Popovich's press conference the other day, and he said he was going to take a picture of Vince Carter and show it to all his team so that they would remember he's on the Mavericks. And you got to give him credit, because a big thing I'm worried about with this Mavs team is the bench, the production they've been getting. I mean, the other day, the other three starters, Sean Marion, Jose Calderon, and Samuel Dalembert, they combined for 16 points. The Mavs really need those three guys to step up, because the majority of the scoring has been from Monta Ellis, Vince Carter, and then Dirk, and they're going to need some more guys to step up right now. And for the Spurs, everybody's kind of been doing their role. Parker, Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, and Splitter, they've been getting double-digit scoring from all those guys. Ginobili is doing a good job at providing offense with those guys off the floor. I think the Mavs, they could tie it up, but I think the Spurs, either way, are going to win Game 7 if it comes to that. But I still see the Spurs winning this series.
Yeah, I think the Spurs are going to win also, Joe. The other day with the Mavericks, Blair was out of that game. He was suspended, and that's a real killer for that team. I really think they should have won that. I think Blair's defensive presence, he's a good rebounder, good defender, and losing a big man like him off the bench was a real killer. I mean, Dallas, you know what? They're going to win this. They're going to win this next game, but they're not winning Game 7 because the Spurs really just have a great offense. However, I'm quite worried for San Antonio, Joe. They really haven't looked as explosive as they did this whole year. This whole year, they've been really dominant of teams. This postseason, really not that much.
Agreed, and my big concern about the Spurs this year was they really just struggled against the top-tier teams all year, and I think you're seeing right now they're struggling against Dallas. I think they will get past Dallas, but I just don't think that they have what it takes right now to get to the Western Conference Finals. I think just the youth and the athleticism of those other teams is finally kind of catching up to those teams. But you can watch the next game in that series tonight, 8 o'clock. The next one, I said we talked about it a lot last week, how big a fan I am of the Portland Trailblazers and what they're doing. That next game, the series is now 3-2. Houston won last Wednesday, and the next game will be tonight at 10:30. Game 5, it came down to the wire. The Rockets made a few more plays. All these games, though, have been incredibly close. I mean, the last 2 minutes of these games, it's anybody's ball game, whoever's making the more plays. And Damian Lillard, he's been money throughout the entire series. Even in the losing effort the other day, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. The big problem for Portland the other day was LaMarcus Aldridge. He was off. 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 of 12 from the field goal. And those are the 2 cohesive pieces that the Portland Trailblazers need to really get to that next level. They've got a lot of good bench players like Nicholas Batum, but Aldridge and Lillard are going to have to carry the majority of the scoring load. And when Aldridge has an off game like that, it really makes it harder. But Nicholas Batum did step up in that game. He had 15 points. He's played a great series. I mean, he's hot shooting the ball. And I think Dwight Howard, transitioning now to Houston, he played well the other day. It was probably his best game of the series. 22 points, 14 rebounds, and he's making his free throws. I mean, we always joke about how bad he is at the free throw line, but ever since Game 1 where Terry Stotts instituted the hack of Howard, he's been making his free throws, so he's been better. But James Harden continues to struggle, and he's going to take, Houston will only go as far as he can take them. 17 points, 7 assists, 5 of 15, and 1 of 7 from the three-point line. He has really struggled, and Houston's not going to win unless he can really put together 2 really good games in a row. And then I think Portland finishes this tonight at home. I think they're going to get the win. It's just too hard for Houston to have to win now these next couple games. I think Portland wraps it up tonight.
Yeah, me too, Joe. James Harden, there's nothing you can really say about Houston. What happened to James Harden?
Man.
How do you go from being so explosive, the guy who attacks the rim, the guy who's always at the free throw line?
He lives at the free throw line.
He lives there. That's where all his points come from. And he's just dead in this series. And that's the killer. He's a top-paid player. He's supposed to be helping Dwight Howard to win this series and just has not showed up whatsoever. This is him, and this is what he did in the finals versus LeBron James. This is exactly what he did. He was a total ghost. He had a great playoff series the whole year. Then came LeBron and the Heat, and he couldn't do it. I have no idea what is going on whatsoever. This is crazy. Dwight Howard has done a great job. As you said before, he is hitting free throws. You know what? With the money he makes, he should be hitting free throws.
Yeah.
But Portland, man, Aldridge and Damian Lillard, how do you stop the dynamic duo? I don't know.
I'm telling you, I hope people are paying attention to what Damian Lillard is doing, because I was saying it last week. This is a second-year player. His poise is just incredible. I mean, this guy is just so much fun to watch play. He's probably my favorite young player right now, because the way he plays the game, his energy, I just can't get enough of it. And I'm really rooting for this kid. I love him. The next team to go over, their series is done, is the Miami Heat. Now, of course, they sweep the Bobcats 4-0. Definitely have gained a lot of momentum. They're playing a lot better. I was incredibly worried at the end of the season because they were not playing good basketball, and I did not think that they were going to be able to win the NBA title this year. But right now, with the way everything else has gone, I think that the Heat are going to win the title. I just haven't seen another team so far that I think can beat Miami 7 games in a series. Maybe you would think Indiana before, but the way things have gone for them, I don't care if they get past Atlanta. They're not beating the Heat. I just haven't seen any team right now that can beat Miami in a 7-game series. So, Rob, I pass it over to you. Have you seen the team that can beat Miami in a 7-game series?
The West, I think the West is a little bit more powerful, Joe. I think if Portland played the Heat, they could beat them.
Wow, you think Portland? Wow.
Yeah, and I think the Clippers could do it too, if they make it out.
The Clippers are the one I think probably could. Anybody other than that, I just can't see it.
San Antonio's too old.
Yeah.
Dallas might
They're
get
not
them.
even gonna get
they might
past
get them
San Antonio.
5 games, 6 games if they got past. Overall, it would be a tough series, but Miami, I don't even like this right now because every single thing is going their way when you don't want it.
Well, I mean, that was my next point, actually.
4-game sweep. Indiana's on the brink of losing, and the AFC's moving on. The
Brooklyn,
Nets are almost out.
The
they
only
could beat
team
Toronto.
who gave them trouble all year was Brooklyn, and Brooklyn most likely is going to be out if things hold up.
You wonder, is Washington the only team that's going to give Miami a run? Because right now, it's a piece of cake for Miami in the East. They're going to be running through it.
It absolutely is. And the thing I really got to give Eric Spoelstra a lot of credit for is he's not afraid to use unorthodox lineups in games. The thing I've been calling for him to do the last couple summers when they went through that stretch against the Pacers when they really struggled is put James Jones into the lineup. Give him playtime. He spreads the floor. You have to be aware of him because he is a deadly three-point shooter. He can't really do much else. Plays okay defense, but this guy is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA that no one talks about. James Jones is a difference maker when he's in the lineup because teams have to be concerned about him because if you give him space, he's going to knock down the shot. He's a 50% shooter. It's going in, or 50% of the time it's going to go in. I think James Jones is an extremely deadly player, and I'm very glad that Eric Spoelstra is finally putting him into the lineup. And right now, if you're a Heat fan, I think it's looking good. I really do. Going off to the next point, we kind of just talked about it with the Wizards. The Wizards are most likely, I think, regardless if Indiana beats Atlanta in the Game 7 that they'll play Saturday, I think the Wizards will get past Indiana. If it's Indiana or Atlanta, Atlanta's a much worse team than Indiana is, talent-wise that is. But the Wizards just have so much offense. They have length. I think that they would easily get past Indiana. If the Wizards play the Heat, I still see the Heat beating them just because of the inexperience. You're playing the defending champions. There's a lot of talent there, but the Wizards, they're resting up, and they dominated the matchup versus the Bulls, so that's definitely something to keep your eye on. But now we move on to the games from last night. The first game we had is the Pacers and the Hawks. That series is now tied up 3-3, and the big thing was last night, this game really came down to the wire. The last couple minutes was big, and David West, he made a lot of plays. He was clutch at the end of the game last night. Paul George made a couple plays too, but I think a big thing I have seen for the Hawks, and I gotta bury this guy's Pero Antic, center for the Atlanta Hawks. It boggles my mind when I see what the Hawks do. They let this guy shoot threes. He just is such a liability on the floor. There was a series of plays in the game last night. In the last couple minutes when the Hawks were down, they needed a basket. Jeff Teague passes him the ball. He's looking the other way, turns the ball over. The next play, lets David West get an easy point over him. And then after that, it was just a series of bad plays after another. And this guy, Antic, he's just such a liability on the floor for the Hawks. And the Hawks overall, I mean, this is a close series. I don't know who's going to win Game 7 because Indiana is the superior team here. But they've just played so miserably, and Atlanta's really taken advantage of that. So I don't know who's going to show up, what Pacer team will show up. I hope Atlanta wins for my Heat, but Rob, who do you think is going to win?
Well, this series is going to be tough. I think Atlanta's overall going to come out with it. First off, with Indiana, somebody needs to call Michael Jordan to play the Monstars because they need to get Roy Hibbert's talent back.
Oh, my God.
What is he doing? 0 points in the last 2 games. He's averaging 12 minutes, and he's one of their best centers. He is their best center. I don't understand it. I mean, here's the thing. Antic plays out on the perimeter. He's a good three-point shooter. So maybe that's one of the difficulties is Roy Hibbert's always out there. That's why he's not getting that many boards. But he's not being that dominant big man. And we keep seeing it. Larry Bird is not liking it. If you watch the games and you look at Larry Bird's face, he is just miserable up there.
Absolutely.
And Vogel needs to get out of there. I'm sorry. Even if they win this series, you need to fire Vogel. This guy has no idea how to run a great team like this. But Atlanta's going to win this series, Joe. They're going to win it tomorrow.
All right. I like the enthusiasm about the Hawks. I sure hope so. Another thing is, like you were saying about Larry Bird, you look at his body, the whole Pacers' body language, and it's just bad. I mean, these teams just look like the Pacers are just lost right now. And like I said, they could get past Atlanta, but they're not going to win the championship. They're not even going to get to the finals. The next game last night was the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Memphis Grizzlies. Oklahoma City won 104-84. That game is also going to be a Game 7. And Durant responded to the unreliable after the game the other night with the Grizzlies won. The headlines in the Oklahoma City papers were Mr. Unreliable. And there was a lot of controversy over that. But Durant responded, 36 points, 10 rebounds, but he was 0 for 6 from the three-point line, so that was definitely a concern. But overall, Rob, did you feel that the unreliable headlines were justified? Was that fair?
Oh, they were justified. He's lucky that they did not lose yesterday because he would have been getting reports that he was like LeBron James a couple years ago when LeBron didn't win the championship and he was going for the MVP. And you know what? Kevin Durant needs to start hearing that. He has not been able to hit his shot all series. And just yesterday, great job. 11 from 23 for the field, 14 to 15 from the free throw line, 10 boards, 36 points. He did a great job. And you know what? He is not listening to what these reporters are saying, and he's going out there to prove himself to be the MVP he is.
Absolutely. Do you think that the negative, I mean, let's face it, he had a good game last night, but overall I would say he hasn't been as dominant as we had hoped. Is this going to affect the MVP race in any way with LeBron?
You know what? It sort of does because an MVP, Joe, all year he has to be at it. All year. Even in the playoffs. I'm sorry. Even if you lose you got to win in the playoffs when you're that high of a player. And I see him kind of as LeBron. He's going to start getting that criticism, Joe, now. A couple years in the NBA that he should be in the NBA Finals ready. He should have a championship. I'm sorry. Kevin Durant should have at least one championship. And this OKC team is just hard, man.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good point to leave this off on. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll highlight the rest of the NBA games. A lot of hockey to talk about, so stay with us, and we will be right back.